Hi everyone, and welcome back to our video blog, The Key to Successful Report Writing. In this video, we provide you with examples of how to collect and record student data and achievement so that you are well and truly prepared for report writing. Make sure you watch until the end, as we have provided you with a free editable resource to help you collect and record data and notes. Thanks and enjoy! So by beginning now to collect data on what your students are doing, to make comments, anecdotal notes, take photos of all the learning activities and assessments that they're doing, that's going to help you when it's actually time to start report writing. And in this video blog, I will show you some of my favorite resources and strategies that I use to set myself up from now to be ready for report writing. So probably the first thing is collecting data. So from an early point, you need to start beginning to collect data and organize this data in student assessments and activities. Something that I really quite enjoy doing, and I find it really easy, using a table, or as my husband consistently reminds me to use, is Microsoft Excel to present student data. So I'll just get that open for you, and I'll show you an example of how I do that. So I have changed names, so it's some of my students, and just put in some random comments and activities that I would do to collect and record data. So this is an example if I was doing a maths assessment. I might have been had a graphing activity, had a BODMAS, which is your order of operations activity, and had fractions. So as you can see here, I set it out so that I have the students' names down the side, and up the top is what the focus or the activity was. As students are working, or if I have their work and I take it after, I go into each column and I record what they're actually able to do. So as you can see here, Toby and Matthew are not doing the same activity that the other kids are doing, and that's why they're not in the normal columns. They have their own groups. So that might be your differentiation, or if you have students on an alternate learning plan. So for Johnny, if you look at, I've written he converts fractions to decimals to percents to degrees. He creates a pie graph from a set of data. After revision, so this one's important because it says after revision. He wasn't able to solve equations involving BODMAS from the start. It's something that he needed revision with. So I would have made sure to identify whether this was at the start of the unit or at the end of the unit. So all of these comments that I'm making are things that I can use to write my reports later. So I'm not having to think of it off the top of my head. I actually have the example there ready to go. And then if you look at this one down here, it's a little bit different because it says with support is beginning to, whereas these students were able to do it from the start or independently. This student only does it with support. And so that really easily shows me where my C student is going to be. And this is probably going to be a D for that specific activity, which was creating graphs. So this one I've got here is a little bit different. This is where we've had an assessment. So it was one assessment, and then I broke the assessment down into the different parts of the assessment. So the assessment was around, it was a shape summative assessment. So we had been learning about 3D shapes, types of 3D shapes, drawing 3D shapes, identifying the differences between the shapes, using equations to identify if this shape has this many sides, it's going to have this many angles, what the nets of 3D shapes, drawing 3D shapes, etc., etc. So just doing that, and I do that once I've made the assessment, I go through and create a table breaking down each part of the assessment. So when I go in to grade them and write my notes, I can be really specific about what they were able to do and what they weren't able to do. So if you look at Sally, she had a 43 out of 48, which, you know, that's pretty good. She didn't get everything right, but she got most of them right. And I've just gone through, and we'll talk about the labeling a little bit later, because I have different letters that represent different things. So in this one, my Y was yes, tick, she got it, the whole thing was right. This one, I could be a little bit more specific because it was identifying complex shapes from definitions. So I wrote they identify basic 3D shapes and pentagonal prisms and pyramids, but not complex shapes. So they were able to do what was required at their year level, but then as in all assessments, you always have something to extend. She didn't meet the extension point, so that's what that tells us. So the one that we have here is a shape rich assessment task. I'll do a blog later on rich assessment tasks. They're a fantastic way to do a more open-ended assessment of what the students have been learning. So there's not a right or wrong answer. It's more how are they able to extend themselves? Are they at the beginning? Are they consolidating their information? What is it that they're doing? What are their findings? And as you can see at the top, and I'll just zoom in a little bit so you can see it a bit better. I've broken it down into also what year 5 they might be doing in year 5, and that's for your students that aren't quite at the year level. So this was for year 6, but I put in what the year level before was, and then what the year level after was, and that allows for that extension. So I've written what the specific task was. I've color-coded this one rather than using the letters. So this tells me that, and I I didn't put it on this one, but normally I would have with the color coding what each of the colors means. This one is if they've got the color code, then they've been able to do that specific task. There's no color here, so they didn't achieve that task. Again, I've also put notes in with them. Some have notes, some don't. I didn't fully complete all these. It's just for an idea for you. All right, and here's another example. So this was another maths assessment task, and if you look down here, it tells you that each of the letters has a different meaning. This is more something I would do probably at the beginning and at the end of a test. It wouldn't be things that I'm doing throughout assessments that I would do throughout the unit, but it might be my pre-test and my post-test. This tells me that they're at a beginning standard, so they haven't quite got it at all, or maybe they had an attempt but they didn't understand the question. Consolidating means they're understanding some of it but not all of it. Mastered means, yep, tick, they've got it, they don't need to practice that anymore. And not attempted means they didn't even attempt to answer it. This is really good, and what I usually do next is I go through and color code these, and this makes it really visual for me to just be able to look across and know who's achieved what, who's still progressing, and who is at the very beginning. This isn't just good for report writing. This is good to start at the beginning of the year and for all of your pre and post assessments. It gives you a visual tool to look at what the student knows, what they've achieved, and what progress they've made from the start to the end. And you know what? It probably takes you about 20 to 30 minutes. But again, this is something that's going to help you when you go back to report writing, because you can simply, rather than pulling out all the children's math books, writing books, reading books, I can just pull this up and look at Johnny is consolidating, naming angles. He doesn't understand what a vertex is. He's still beginning reading a protractor. He's still learning to do this. So I can more specifically put that in their reports because I have all that information there. Thanks for watching this segment on report writing tools and strategies. My husband has created a spreadsheet which has incorporated color coding, a legend for achievement, and a space for you to enter notes as seen here. You can download the editable free copy by clicking the attached link. It comes with a template example and is available for you to edit to suit your specific content area and insert your students' names. In our next video, we will cover different resources and apps that are useful for sorting your students by learning area and collecting images of their learning. Be sure to like and share our video with other teachers who may find this information useful. Thanks for watching!